So we've been asked in quite a few comments on YouTube and on our social media about how we do our hang and hunt setups and then our camera setups once we're in the tree. So in this video, that's what we're talking about. We're going to show you how we put our tree stands up in the tree for our public land hang and hunts, and then our camera setups once we're in the tree. And then specifically the gear that we're using here, these are Lone Wolf steps. They're really light, and we've used some Hawk Helium steps as well. We like the Hawk Helium steps because they've got the two steps on top, but these Lone Wolf steps are just really light and really quiet. We feel like they're just a little bit better for reducing that weight when we're walking in. We're also using the Lone Wolf stand, and these are just stands we bought on an auction. So for us, it's just about stands that work and get the job done and that we can afford. This is one that we could afford, and it's really light for packing in for our hang and hunts. Another thing is that if you want to reduce your weight a little bit and you're allowed to use screw-in steps on public land that you hunt, you can take a couple of these screw-in steps. They're not very heavy. You can throw them in your backpack. You can put 2 screw-in steps at the base of your tree, eliminate one of these steps, and reduce some of your weight. We're going to start with how we pack our gear on our stand, and I know everybody does this differently, and just with what the stands you got and the equipment you got, you can kind of do it differently, but this is how we go about doing it. And the one thing we found this year that works really well is we use these canopy straps. You can go to your local hardware store and get them for like $3, and that's what we use to attach our sticks and our camera bases and camera arms to our stands. They're quiet and they're quick, and you don't got to worry about making a lot of noise or taking the time to ratchet stuff on there. So that's what we use to attach our sticks to our stand. We usually use a couple of them. You can probably get away with just doing one if you want. We usually go with 3 sticks, so whatever way you want to arrange your sticks on your stand so that you can fit all your gear on there. We got 2 on one side here and then 1 stick on the other side. Those canopy straps hold them tight and they're not going to make a lot of noise. And we also attach this middle bar of the stand to the platform of the stand with the canopy straps, so this stuff isn't bouncing around. Then you don't have to worry about tightening these straps on. You can just throw them on, tighten them up a little bit, and you're good to go, and it's not going to make any noise. Then we also throw our rope on here. We just roll it up and then hook it here over these steps, and it's not going to come out no matter what you're walking through. And then the final thing that we'll do is, if you have a backpack, we'll just take this backpack and throw it up over the top of our sticks and the top of the platform, and then that backpack can hang on there as we walk, and it's not going to make any noise either. It's on the outside of all this stuff. So that's the final thing that we pack on there, throwing our backpack on there. And then on the back side, what we use for tree stand straps to haul them in, Lone Wolf straps. We use these just because they're a lot wider, and we found the wider that you can get these tree stand straps, the better it is on your shoulders, especially early season when you're only wearing 1 layer. You can have really wide straps that'll help you last a little bit longer when you're walking in, and your shoulders won't get so tired. And most of the products that we use for our hang and hunt setups on public land are linked in the description below if you want to check them out more. But now we'll move over here to this tree and we'll show you how we put the tree stand up in the tree. So once we get to our tree, I usually set my tree stand up against my tree, kneel down, and just get everything organized. Most of the time, if you have a pack, I will put that pack on my back when I go up the tree so everything's in it. Like I said, if you have camera gear, you can put some of that camera gear in your backpack so you don't have to pull it up. And as you can see, taking off these canopy straps is really quick, really easy, and really quiet, and then you can just throw them right in your pocket or right in your backpack. And so I'll take all my sticks, get them laid out, and then I'll carry all of the straps for the sticks in my backpack, and I'll just pull them out and set that first stick here on the tree. And then once I get that first stick, like I said, on the tree, got these straps kind of adjusted for the width of the tree, I'm going to get my stand ready and tie my rope to the stand. A lot of times I'll leave this canopy strap with the base of the tree stand attached to this arm right here, still on there, so that when I'm pulling it up the tree, we don't got metal clanking against each other. And I'll undo these straps so that they're loose and ready to go, so that when I pull it up the tree, all I got to do is grab the strap and pull it around the tree. So then I'll take one end of the rope, tie it to the base of the tree stand here, and then I'll take the other end of that rope and tie it to my climbing harness right here, so that when I go up the tree, it's hooked to me, I can just pull the stuff up. I'll also attach some of the sticks to this rope too. And a lot of times if I have straps like these, they got this hook on here, I'll hook the second step onto the top step of the first stick. That way, once I climb up, I get to here, I can just grab this stick, either tie it onto my harness and climb up a little bit farther if I need to, or just go ahead and grab that second stick and pull it up. And then for that third and final stick that we'll carry, I'll tie the tree stand strap to this loop on the rope. That way, if I'm up the tree and it's too far down, I can shimmy this down the rope or pull it up the rope. It's just a little bit easier to hook stuff on and tie it into this than to just tying it onto this rope. Once I got all the sticks ready to go, everything's tied up, I'll throw that backpack on my back that has some of the camera gear in it, and we will come down one more time to grab our bow and maybe any other camera gear that we have. It's probably not the most efficient way, but it's the way we do it. If you want to be a little bit quicker, you can bring another smaller rope that you can tie your bow on, set it up against the tree just like the stand, and then tie your bow rope to the other side of your harness so that when you get up there, then you can pull that up. Like I said, we come back down again. We don't really feel like the 3 minutes it takes me to climb down, tie my bow up, and go back up is making too much noise or taking up too much time. So we come back down, and we would do that after I get all this tree stand stuff. But before we go any further, it's always important to wear all the safety gear when you're climbing up in a tree. Have your lineman's belt and have your harness. Do not go up in the tree if you do not have the proper safety gear. We always have our harness on, and we always use these climbing belts when we're putting our tree stands up. So get up this high on my first step. I've got that second step already hooked into the tree. I'll grab it and pull it up. So I'll lean into the stick, using my body to hold the stick there, so I can use both of my hands to get that strap around the tree. I'll pull it tight, pull down on the stick a little bit, and I usually put them at about chest height. That usually works for how tall me and Chance are for spacing in between our sticks. And because of the tree we're in right now, just to do this demonstration, the sticks aren't going to be really spread out like they would be. We won't be quite as high, so that third stick may not be quite where we want it on this tree just for demonstration purposes, but our next step will be to pull that third and final step up, grab that rope, and pull that stick up. Once you got all your sticks up, then it's time to pull your stand up. I usually try to get to a point where I can rest this stand on my knee. This allows me to use both my hands, and I won't get so tired if for some reason I got to struggle with the strap or struggle with the tree or some branches. Start with the top strap, pull it around the tree, and tighten that top strap first. Once I get that top strap done, I'll take this rope off because it'll be secured to the tree with that top strap. Always make sure when you're putting this bottom strap on that you seat your tree stand. So pick up on the base of the platform, pull it up towards this bar, pull it tight, and then push your tree stand back down. That just allows your tree stand and these bars back here to grip that tree better so that when you get in it, you don't stand on it and feel your tree stand push down. And that's it for putting this tree stand up. Now this is up. What I would do now, if it was the way we were doing it, so I climb up, I take the stuff out of my backpack so I could hang my backpack on the tree, get my bow holder ready, and then I go back down the tree, tie my bow on and any other camera gear, and pull it up, and then get all of our camera gear set up. If you're just hunting with a bow, no camera gear, all you got to do is put the stuff on the tree to hang your backpack and your bow, pull your bow up, and you're good to go. And then once we get up into the tree, we got a few more things that we got to set up. We got to set up all of our camera gear. And we've had some people asking us about some self-filming tips and how we set our gear up once we're up in the tree. So that's what we're going to talk about right now. First thing we're going to do is put up our camera base. And what I usually do is I'm a right-handed shooter. So I'm going to put this camera arm so that it's going to be on my right side. And where we're going to want to set this camera arm base is usually about waist high. You don't want to set it too high because then it's above your head and you can't see the screen. Then if it's too low, then it's going to be all the way down here and you're going to have a hard time moving it. You want to be able to put it so everything's about waist high. So I get that set, like I said, at about waist high. That allows me to put that camera arm in there and have everything right here. Like I said, that's going to be on my right side so that I can hold the bow in this hand and run the camera with this hand. And the next part is just putting your camera arm onto the camera base. And then the next thing that we're going to do is slide our camera onto our camera base here. And then we're going to plug our VariZoom in. And when you're in a tree stand and you're self-filming, this VariZoom is really important because you can run this camera without this VariZoom on here, but you have to hit the record button on your camera and the on-off button on your camera and even the focus from on your camera, which is going to be hard to do if you've got a bow in one hand, trying to run the camera with the other, and a deer out in front of you. So this VariZoom allows you to run the record, the on-off, and the focus from a button back here on your arm. Once we get that plugged in, we're pretty much good to go. This camera, as I'm going to have sitting on my right side ready to go, if I see a deer, I can use my right hand to grab it and pull it around, and if I have to, run it with just my right hand because I have this VariZoom. I can hold the bow and my other hand ready to shoot. And with self-filming, everything's just going to be a little bit harder because you're by yourself. It is so much easier to have Chance up here in the tree filming because I can concentrate on that buck, reading its body language, seeing where it's going, picking my spot, getting ready to shoot. Where when you're self-filming, you're worried about the camera, figuring out, hey, I got to get some footage of this buck, but then where's he going to be? Where can I get my shot? So I think the one important thing that I learned when I was self-filming that buck that I shot back in October was when I got up in that tree and I'm just sitting there, I'm not doing anything. I'm looking at these spots around me that I know, hey, the buck gets in there, I can get a shot on him if he gets in this spot, or if he gets over here, or if he gets over here. Kind of picking those spots, playing through my mind what's going to happen so that when those scenarios happen, I've kind of planned for it. Because when you're trying to film and shoot him at the same time, it can be really tricky and you might miss some of those spots where you can get that shot off on him. So if you kind of play some of those scenarios through in your mind, you can be prepared for them. The other thing that you can do is stay really wide on your camera. Don't zoom in on the buck too much because then you're going to be having to continuously move that camera with the buck. So you zoom out, pick your spot where you're like, hey, he walks into that opening, that's where I'm going to shoot him. Get your camera set up on that and wait for him to walk in. We obviously are going to know that you're self-filming. It's going to be harder to get cool B-roll of that buck coming in when you're doing it all by yourself. So once he starts getting close to that spot where you're like, hey, that's the spot I marked, I can shoot him when he gets into that gap, get your camera on it, set it wide. You can always crop in and post, but make sure that camera's a little bit wider than it normally would be if someone else was filming you. And as far as our setups go for the places that we pick, if we're self-filming or hunting with somebody else, we're just going to go where the bucks are. So we might go into a place that's really thick and we don't got very many shot options and it might be more difficult, or we might go somewhere where it's really open. So as far as our setups, if we're doing anything different when we're self-filming as opposed to when we're not really. It's basically just going to where the bucks are, getting in there and hunting. Sometimes we might lose a buck because we're self-filming. I did that earlier in the year. I was looking the other way and the buck was behind me and you had all this stuff we had to get. The camera flipped around to grab my bow and I missed an opportunity at a buck, but then it can also work out and I killed one about a month later. So self-filming is more difficult, but it is pretty fun once you do it and you got this buck self-filmed on camera all by yourself. So there isn't too many different things that we do self-filming with the camera setup. Like I said, the big thing is just make sure that camera's on the right side if you're right-handed so you can run it with one hand when that deer's coming in. If you have any questions about this stuff, we're up here, we do it and self-film a lot, so we don't really think about some of the small things that you guys might have questions on. So if you guys have questions, drop them below. We'll either answer them in the comments or we'll answer them in the comments and make a video about them. So if you have any questions about some of this stuff that we're not answering right now, just ask the question below and we'll answer them for you. So that's how we pack our stands in for our hang and hunt setups, how we put our stuff on the stands, how we get up the tree, and then a little bit about our self-filming tips. Like I said a little bit earlier, if you have any questions about some of this stuff, even real small things, just ask them in the comments below. We'll answer them down there and we'll probably make a video about them because if you have a question about it, somebody else probably does. But thanks for watching and subscribe and like it if you haven't already.